Hello, fellow book lovers. Welcome to my channel. I'm Krista with Journey Through Genres.
I think I like this little life.
There's a fun little book tag going around called Girl Scout Cookies book tag. And I want to thank Fred for tagging me in this Girl Scout book tag. His channel is Read by Fred. I'll link his channel in the description below. This book tag originally came from Melinda at Web of Stories. So I will also link her below too. And the idea behind the book tag is I'm going to name off a few different popular Girl Scout cookies and recommend a book according to the cookie. I've always stuck to the same 3 cookies when it comes to Girl Scout cookies. It's always the Tagalongs, Thin Mints, and the Samoas. I haven't tried anything else. I like what I like. However, I do have Lyme disease now, so I can't have sugar and I can't have gluten. So no more Girl Scouts for me, unfortunately, but I do remember what they taste like. And they were delicious. So let's get started with the very first Girl Scout cookie, which is the tray folds. I never tried these, but apparently they're the classic cookie. The prompt for this cookie is a classic novel you love, The Secret Garden by Frances Burnett. This is nostalgic for me. I used to watch the movie when I was little over and over and over again. It was my ultimate favorite movie to watch of all time. So when I read this as an adult, I fell in love with this story all over again. The nostalgia hit me so hard, and it will always be one of my favorite classics of all time. The next cookie is Lemon Ups. And apparently on these cookies, there's some inspirational writing on them. I never knew this before. Kind of cool. So the prompt for this cookie is a book I find inspiring. Again, this was a really tough decision for me, but I ultimately chose The Color Purple by Alice Walker. This is a story set in the South. This book takes you through this woman's lowest points, and you think that this is just the worst situation you could find yourself. And it's the relationship she meets along the way, the strong woman she has found along the way who has lifted her up, who has given her courage and strength. I just find this story so beautiful. The friendships alone are something that I strive for. Strong women who just want to support each other. Next is the Some More cookies. I've never heard of these, but the prompt for this cookie is a comforting book. That, hands down, is the easiest decision I made. There is one book and only one book that's going to hit this nail on the head, and that is The Bear and the Nightingale. I have 2 different editions of this book because I love this book so much. This is a book that when I read it, I want to just hold it and cuddle it and curl up with a blanket next to the fire. Like, this is the most cozy thing I've ever read. For some reason, I feel such a nostalgic pull when I read this. There's 3 books to this series. This is just a different edition. I love the cover of this. This is what started my love for folklore, and more specifically Russian folklore. I went on a binge after this and read a bunch of different type of Russian folklore books. And then from there, I went on and read more and more folklore from different cultures. We have a young girl who is just a wild child. She goes and she's always in the woods. She's talking to spirits, she's talking to little trolls. And it's just, to me, that is who I was when I was a little girl. Not that I actually saw trolls or spirits or anything like that, but I would pretend, and I had a very vivid imagination. And that's what everyone in the village believes of this little girl, is that she has a very vivid imagination. So when Christianity comes into town and tries to take the beliefs away from this village and install this new religion and this new faith, and tells them that all these things that they believed in were wrong, she holds on to these old beliefs. So she's trying hard to keep them alive all by herself. Again, we have a very strong woman in this, and it's just an interesting look and take on gods and cultures and beliefs and what happened in our past and how things have changed. Next, we have Adventurefuls. Never heard of this cookie either, but the prompt for this book is an adventurous book. I do think this one fits the bill. This is Salem Ascends. This is by Josiah Bancroft. I think there's 3 or 4 books in this series. I can't remember. I have 3 of the books. I haven't read on past this first one. I am planning on doing it. I just haven't yet. But we have this man and this wife who take their honeymoon to this, it's called Babel. It's a tower. When he gets to this town, him and his wife get separated, and he is desperately looking for her. And he finds out that she is taken into this tower and brought up to, for whatever reason. And this is a common occurrence in this area, that women are taken and for something we don't know yet. So he is on a desperate mission to find his wife. He has to go through each level of this building, and each level he needs to kind of pass. It's this big ordeal in order to get to the next level. The next book, he has to turn into this pirate, and it's this pirate in the ship in the sky that he has to sail around and navigate. So it's definitely an adventurous read. And then we have Samoas, which is one of my favorite Girl Scout cookies. And this prompt is a book that blends 2 or more genres. I love these type of books. So this was definitely a very difficult one for me. But this author, Jason Mott, he wrote another book that I have of his. I did not bring that one over for some reason. Genre bending is the best way to describe this author. He mixes everything into his books. You can't place his books into one category. He's literary, beautiful descriptions, but yet he's also surreal and speculative. And there's a little thriller element to it. There's mystery in this. You're trying to figure out what is going on. It's all of that mixed up into one book, and it is done so seamlessly, so beautifully, and masterfully. This is a great author. If you haven't read this book, I definitely recommend it. We have a man who is an author. He wrote a book that's called A Hell of a Book, and it's him trying to promote this book. But he also is haunted by visions, and he doesn't know if his visions are real or if they're imaginary. And he happens to come across this little boy who is definitely a ghost or imaginary or something we don't know. And this little boy helps him out through certain situations. We just don't know his story. And there's also a story going on in the background where there's something going on in the news. We know that there was a shooting of a little boy, and we don't know the full story, because when people are telling him about the story of a shooting that's going on, it's just, he doesn't want to know, because it's just another incident. It's just another bad thing that's going on. He doesn't want to hear about it. But we start picking up little pieces throughout the book of what's going on. Plus, we're getting a narration of a little boy and his family, and them trying to tell him to learn how to go invisible, that he has to learn this superpower. And if he tries hard enough, he will get it. I'm not sure where that story is coming from. Is that him, the narrator? Is that the little boy that's in the back seat? Is he a ghost? Or is it the boy that got shot? And who is this ghost? Is he a ghost, or is he imaginary? Like, there's so many questions and so many variables that you're following. And it is so fascinating. This book is so good. And then we have the Do-Si-Dos, which the prompt for this cookie is a book that either everyone else loves and I hate, or a book that everyone else hates and I love, which I don't think I've ever really hated a book, but I do have the perfect author for this prompt. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. And then you have all these other books, which we have Eileen, Death in Her Hands, and Lapfona. The reason why I have them grouped like this is because if you like this book, This is what I've heard, okay? If you like this book, if you love this book, you probably won't like these ones because they're completely different. But if you love these books, you're probably not going to like this book. And that's what happened to me. I'm not a big fan of this book. I love these books though. I love the slow descent into madness. I love following the mundane. However, the main character, these are more quirky people that don't really fit in. We have people that are just kind of going a little crazy because of isolation, or we have really disturbing books which kind of talk about disturbing topics. This book was more of a main character who's kind of a bully, who is really snotty, who has no redeemable thing about her. I really just didn't care for the main character. You're not supposed to care for any of these main characters. I think I have a hard time when people are horrible, but then the people around them idolize them. That's when I think I don't like it. Same goes for Oscar Wilde's Picture of Dorian Gray. I had a hard time with that one too, because the characters in that were horrible, and it's supposed to be a satire, but because everyone idolized them or thought that they were so great and so smart and intelligent, and no one's really talking back about it, I didn't care for it. So that's the difference between the two for me, and why I had a hard time with my year of rest and relaxation. So now we have Thin Mints, and this one is one of your all-time favorite books, which makes sense because Thin Mints is, I think, one of everyone's all-time favorite cookies for Girl Scouts. Instead of just picking my favorite book, I'm going to pick my favorite author, which has a lot of my favorite books in there, and that is Brahm. He has 6 books, and I've read 5 out of the 6 books so far. I just picked up one of his very first books he's ever written, and they don't publish his books anymore, his earlier ones. The one that I think most people have heard of is Slewfoot, and this one's by Brahm. We have The Child Thief, which is one of my favorite books of his. We have Lost Gods, and we have Krampus, The Yule Lord. We have The Devil's Rose. And the one I haven't read yet is Plucker. So I'm really excited that I have this copy. Every single one of them that I've read so far are 5-star reads. They are all a little bit disturbing. They all have to do with mythology and folklore, which I'm a huge fan of. He's also very intelligent and very inclusive in his books. When he's talking about these mythology characters, these old gods, he does his research and he goes into indigenous beliefs and makes sure that he includes those into his books as well. And on top of that, he also does his own illustrations. So he has painted all of the pictures that are within this. And in the middle of the books, he has a bunch of beautiful illustrations of the main characters of his books in every single one of his books that he does. So this is a retelling of Peter Pan. If you really look at the original story of Peter Pan is sneaking into these kids' rooms at night and luring these children away to an island and forming an army to fight against Hook or, anything else. He's making soldiers out of these kids. So it is a very dark story if you really think about it. You have someone who's really looking at those outcast kids that aren't going to be missed. So the look into this folklore is so fascinating. You have Krampus too, who takes a look at, he was here before Santa Claus, and Santa Claus had to come and take Krampus's place, and the way that was done was very dark way of of looking at the story too. And Krampus is coming back and trying to get Christmas back from Santa Claus. It's a dark take. It's not happy-go-lucky, but there is a really good sense of humor to these books, but it is a very dark sense of humor. And then you have Lost Gods. You're looking at purgatory. and what purgatory is. It's the place of in between, before you go to hell or before you go to heaven. And it's his travels through there. He's not actually dead. He is going there looking for something. And you have these gods. And if you really take a look at all these different elements, it is quite dark and depressing thinking about them. So Bram just does an amazing job at taking different beliefs and different stories and really just dissecting them and making you think twice about what stories we just took for granted before. And the last cookie is the tag-alongs, which the prompt for these are tag some of your fellow booktubers. So first I wanted to tag Matilda, which is one of my dear friends. I've known her for quite a while. I met her through coloring. She lives in Sweden, I believe. We both really love books, and she started her own YouTube channel. So definitely check her out. It's Matilda at Matilda the Book Dragon. And I'll link all of these tags below in my description as well. And then I have 3 more that I wanted to tag in this because I found them recently. They're all new booktubers. All of these booktubers that I'm going to mention all recommend very unique books, which really called to me. I love finding unique people who love unique books like I do. First, we have Beck at Redhead Reads. Then we have Grace at Books with G. And then last but not least, we have Lisa at the Unhinged Woman Book Club, which you can probably tell by her title what kind of books she leans more towards. I would love to hear what you guys would recommend for the different cookies that I've listed, and let me know in the comments. But until next time, bye.
I think I like this little life.